Welcome back to the Magnetic Growth Podcast, the show where we go deep on what it really takes to build in Web3. Today's guest is Olabisi, the sharp voice behind the Web3 Quick Bites Podcast, a show that brings clarity to the chaos of Web3, breaking down what really matters into clear, actionable insights anyone can use. Her ability to simplify the complex, such as DeFi, DAOs, AI, or dApps, has made her a trusted guide for builders, founders, and curious minds navigating the decentralized future. In today's episode, we'll dive into the real reasons why so many Web3 projects stall after a strong start, what separates short-term noise from long-term traction, and how founders can use narrative, voice, and trust to sustain momentum well beyond launch. We'll also explore where AI is already shaping growth strategy in Web3 and how teams can stay sharp through continuous learning, especially in a space that is literally changing week by week. So if you're launching a project or a dApp or just trying to figure out how to reignite the growth after the hype dies down, then this episode should hopefully be packed full of clarity and insight that you don't want to miss. Olabisi, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And thanks for having me. I'm super excited today and I can't wait for us to take a deep dive into all the Web3 growth strategies and so much more.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And how does it feel being on the opposite side of the podcast today?
It feels different, to be honest. It feels different because I'm usually the one asking the questions. I'm usually the one doing what you just did now. So it feels kind of different. It's actually nice for a change to be the one at the other end.
Awesome. Well, let's hope I can do 50% as good of a job as you do, and we'll have a good podcast. So I'll try my best, and you can give me some feedback maybe at the end of the session. But yeah, I mean, a good starting block would be, I've given you an introduction, but I would also like to hear your own introduction. Like, what have you been doing in this space? I think that would be really helpful for everyone listening.
I think you've covered basically everything about me, but yeah, I run the Web3 Quick Bite Podcast, and I also work in marketing. I've always been a marketing girly, even in Web2, and so it was just easy for me to make that transition to Web3 as a marketer. And then over the years, I had to own my marketing skills, learn group marketing alongside my content marketing skills. And then one thing I realized is that in Web3, actually, I don't know if I should say they don't really take marketing serious, or the idea of marketing in Web3 is running contests, airdrop, just giving people money, giving money away, and then they expect a miracle to happen. And so we actually need to spread the gospel, just like you're doing with your podcast, to let them know that marketing is way beyond all of that. We actually need in-depth marketing strategy. It's not just a case of, oh, we'll build it and people will come. And so that is what I've been doing majorly, working as a group marketer, helping scale projects, and then working my magic behind the scenes. So a podcaster and a marketer. That's just about me.
Awesome. And you already started almost getting into some points that I wanted to discuss today. So we'll follow on from that. But what do you think are the biggest misconceptions that founders have around marketing in Web3? You already almost started to answer this, but yeah, let's make it a formal question. A couple of points around what you think the biggest misconceptions are.
You see? So I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that they think once they go viral, that is it. And yes, going viral actually gets you traction, yeah? Because a project, for example, now, overnight, they might get over 10K community members on their TG or their Discord or whatever channel they are using, right? Or they might mint out in an hour, or their airdrop, or whatever token sales they are doing, right? They can do all that, and then everybody say, oh yeah, great job, we did an amazing job. But I'm sorry to say, but that is not traction. That is just attention. So they tend to confuse that traction. They tend to confuse it with and then to confuse it that is traction, but at the end of the day, it's just attention, right? And we all know what attention is. Attention is fleeting. It doesn't last, because at the end of the day, real traction shows up when the noise fades. What happens when your airdrop campaign is off? What happens when your mint is sold out? That is when the real traction comes in. And then it is actually reflected. So I'm using too much marketing lingo because I've been saying traction and attention and stuff. But then that the real traction is actually reflected in retention. So, which is how many people come back after the whole noise has died down, right? And then how many people are contributing or building, how many talk about you while being incentivized. And because in Web3, yeah, most people here are just farmers. Most people here are just after what you have to offer them. And that is something I always tell founders, because if you are a starting project, I always beg them, I'm literally on my knees, please do not start with incentives. It's actually a bad thing to start or launch your project by giving people incentive. They will stay. If you tell them to go to Mount Everest as part of the challenge, they will go and come back as long as they're getting something out of it, right? And so they tend to confuse that with traction, which at the end of the day is just attention. I think one other misconception here is that traction really is just purely about numbers, right? But in Web3, when you have just a small, deep, aligned community, I would say you are actually on the right path more than projects that were able to get over 50K, or they have 50K community members and they got them based off incentives, right? Because your community, your small community that you got organically, they are way more powerful than that project with large community members that they go through attention, right? And they're just waiting for the next airdrop, and then your comment section, you are seeing when airdrop, when something, something, something. So I think founders, they tend to overlook organic word of mouth. They think, yeah, we need it fast, we need it right now. And that is something I always tell them, that is what meme coin projects do. If you are trying to build long term in this space, you need to not overlook organic word of mouth or overlook referrals, right? And just like I said before, they always think traction comes from, oh yeah, we need to collaborate with big KOLs, we need to collaborate with big influencers in the space before we can get the numbers or before we can grow our community. Of course, yeah, they will push it, they will do all that, people will comment, but the most sustainable growth at the end of the day, it comes from people who are like-minded, people who believe in what you do. That is where real growth comes from. And that only happens, right, when you've built your trust, you've delivered value, and people can actually say that, okay, we can trust you, and you're not going to take our money and run away, which is something that is common in this space, right?
Yeah, there's some really no, there's some really really awesome points there. I love the the awareness kind of versus traction, or attention versus traction, as you put it so well. And I think the biggest problem is that if you are using, and in most circumstances, to fund all of these kind of attention driving factors, you're using the native token of project. So whether it is an airdrop and you're giving the tokens away to your community, or you're having KOLs come in early on and they're starting to talk about the project, you'll be giving them tokens as well. And the problem is, if everyone is involved in the project driven just solely by attention and getting this incentive, they're not going to be bought into the mission of what you actually are doing. So the chances of them holding on to that incentive are very low. And your token is in my opinion, your greatest growth asset in crypto. Your chart is your greatest marketing tool. And if you've just kind of chucked out tokens left, right, and center to build that attention, you're going to be faced with a really hard problem, because there's going to be so much selling pressure on the market from the attention efforts that you pushed, which essentially ruin sustainable long-term growth. And that kind of is a problem that a lot of projects fall into. Now, having said that, there are a very few number of, because like you said, everyone tries to play this game. And there's only really a couple of projects that nailed it, right? Especially from like the rewarding users, such as Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid nailed it. But the difference with Hyperliquid is that they built something that people actually used and found value from. So by the time, and they had great token mechanics. So by the time they did give their community the tokens and the airdrop the tokens to them, these people were loyal, avid users of Hyperliquid. Why would they sell their tokens? Especially when they see so much upside and potential in the platform. And that again comes from the product element. So yeah, a really good point to get into, to be honest. And if that was the only thing we discussed today, I think that that's something that could provide a lot of value to this market for sure. But yeah, kind of moving the conversation on a little bit. How important do you think that it is that the founder of whatever project it is has a voice?
Okay, so I am a champion for founder-led storytelling. It is something that I've always screamed it out loud. Founder-led storytelling is everything. Because if you, as a founder, you are not at the forefront of your project, if people are not hearing you speak, I mean, yeah, you can pay marketing agencies millions of dollars, thousands of dollars to push your project or run your campaigns on your behalf. But if you are the founder, your voice is not the loudest. People are not putting a face to the name. I understand the whole anonymous thing that is associated with Web3, but this is your project. You spent sleepless night coming up with it, right? And you came up with the idea. I think as founders, your voice is critical, especially in a space where there's so much skepticism and noise, right? People are not just investing in the tokens or tech. So why you as a founder, why you not there's something we say in my local language in Nigeria. Why are you literally not carrying the matter on your head, right? Because most people who invest, who are not actually for pump and dump or just there for short gains, they are invested in conviction. And the founder, right, is often the loudest and clearest signal of that conviction. We've seen examples of founders who show up consistently, right? They are on their X. I mean, Elon Musk is a good example, right? That man is always, I wonder how he's able to stay active. He's always there. So I think I want more founders, especially in the Web3 space, to actually show up and then let people, if people hear you speak, people hear you explain exactly why you built this or why you came up with this idea, it's easier for them to find it relatable, right? So, I mean, yeah, the founders are like, okay, where do I start or where do I show up? There are X spaces, there are AMAs, there are podcasts, right? There are interviews, you can go on any of this, build familiarity, let people know who you are. Because, I mean, you agree with me that familiarity leads to trust, right? It does lead to trust. And then trust is what gets people to stick around, right? And when markets turn or momentum slows down, people already associate you as the face of that project. And they trust because they hear you speak, they hear you talk with so much passion. They understand where you're coming from. They find your story relatable. And like I said, the founder of Ethereum, Vitalik, I don't know if he's as more as active on X as before, but when I transitioned to Web3, I was always seeing Vitalik tweets a lot. And so we've seen people like this. And also the founder of Base, Jesse. We've seen people like this, their personal credibility, like I can say, literally overshadows their project, right? Because they are in our faces all the time. And so when people feel like they understand them, they understand their thinking, they understand their values, they are more willing to be patient, even though the market crashes and something. It's more like you've built a cult-like following. People who are not leaving no matter what you do, I don't they dump on you. Right? People are not going to dump on you when the market crashes. And on the flip side, if you look at it on the flip side, right? Founders will stay silent or they try to hide behind the avatar. Behind the avatars are like, oh yeah, I want to stay anonymous. It tends to create doubts. I mean, yeah, I understand the whole anonymous thingy. I don't want to dox myself and stuff, but people will not trust you completely, right? And especially when there's crises, just look at the Bybit crisis that happened when they got hacked, and then the founder was all up in our face. He was able to calm me down. I mean, I was ready to withdraw all my money, but hearing the man speak actually did calm me down. Like, okay, well, now I can just keep my money there for a couple of days just to see how it's going to work out. So we need more founders.
Yeah, he dealt with that really well.
Right, I really handled that well because yeah, whether we like it or
That's
not,
how.
all humans at the end of the day.
So that's the power of being able to take that ownership of like, this is my ship, and people in crisis anyway will trust an individual more than people who's going to come out there and face the music. So yeah, it can be super useful in those circumstances. But yeah, some really good points, and it's weird in Web3 because in Web2 you pretty much always know the founder that's pushing this next big project. It's a very used marketing skill, and it comes back to what you were saying at the start when you made that transition from Web2 to Web3, how different things actually work in this industry. And I always do think that there are elements of Web2 marketing that we forget about in Web3 because we run to sometimes the wrong things because it's the way that we've always done things, when in fact we can learn a lot from Web2 marketing strategies, and this one in terms of founder-led kind of branding and direction and voice can be such a powerful one, as we've seen. And just following up from that, are there any other strategies that you used in your Web2 marketing days that you think could be of good value in Web3?
Educating people, because I think we tend to overlook that part in Web3 actually. So I think it's educating people. So for example, now a Web2 product, when they launch, or use the same projects a lot. So let's say a Web2 product, for example, when they launch, they are running advertising. You see their copy everywhere. For those who forget billboard, radio ads, TV ads, they are everywhere. So that is one of the effective strategy that worked really pretty well for me when I was still in Web2. Because you see, we are all up in people faces. We are doing newsletters. We are doing video content. We are buying up ad spots on TV, on radio. We are running as basically we're all up in people's faces, and that is something that I really like about Web2. If it's to buy your details, if it's to go the other route and get your details from someone who's selling emails, they will. You just see that you're getting strange newsletters. They go all out. They make sure they go all in. I think we actually need to do same in Web3 as well, because unlike Web2, where Web2 already has a playbook and all they are doing now is just to improve and work on it, in Web3, we are still testing and trying so many things. I wouldn't say we have a particular playbook, considering how fast this industry moves, considering how fast-paced Web3 is. So I would say educating people, I mean, subtle selling, right, while educating, I don't know if that makes any sense, is something that I think is an important strategy. I mean, aside the whole understanding your target audience, understanding how they think, how they work, leaving the psychology part out of it, right? I think educating people is it's an underrated strategy in this space. And I don't know why people don't take it seriously. Yes, I understand you need people to sign up. I understand you want to dash them free money. But if they ask a random person, what do they know about your project? What are they going to say? If they don't know what it is you are, what it is you are building, what it is you're trying to create, how are you even going to sell to these people? How are you going to get them to come on board? At the end of the day, you're just going to get people who are there for the incentives, which has actually crushed so many projects. And so educating people while sort of selling, it's an underrated growth strategy. It is. And I need more people to actually take note of this. If it's through communicating via memes, video content, shout out to AI. You can now just go online and make a 1-minute video that communicates what you're doing. Just do it. Do something. Get people on board. Educate them. By doing that, you slowly reel them in. And then you'll be surprised by how effective it is when people understand what exactly it is you're doing. It works well with Web2. I mean, it's been years, right? But you can still remember an ad you saw in your teens, or an ad you saw when you were 5 years old. It still sticks, right? Because we have a couple of evergreen ads here in Nigeria that still gives us nostalgia when we remember. So I think we also need to start adopting stuff like that in Web3 as well. It's an underrated growth strategy outside of the world, trying to acquire users, trying to retain them, trying to gain traction. I think education, we really need to hammer on it a lot and do away with others trying to buy people with money, trying to get them to write 100 content a day. I mean, writing content without purpose also loses people interest, because it's just all up in their face and then it's not converted. So I think the summary of my long yapping is educate people. We need more of that. We need to educate people and let them know what exactly it is you're doing, what you're building, and then communicate effectively. It's one thing to educate people, so it's another thing to also be able to communicate effectively. So
Agreed. I think there's some really good points there. And I think one thing that I picked up is how you kind of translate the education through maybe different mediums of media. Because if you jump into a TG channel and a project's TG channel and you're trying to like educate users, people just want to talk about price and charts and degen stuff, right? It's probably not the right arena to be trying to educate someone. But like you mentioned email marketing, for example, you mentioned about emails there and newsletters and all of these kind of core bits of media, which a lot of the smaller projects don't do. They will just do X and have a TG group. That's it, right? And if you want to be able to have a focus on educating users and getting them to buy into your mission more, then maybe utilizing a more traditional channel, it will be very effective, whether that is a newsletter or email marketing.
Yeah.
If you have an email marketing list, whatever it might be. So yeah, I think there's some really solid some really solid ideas there. And there are projects that do that, especially the bigger guys that have bigger resources and they can push all of these different kind of distribution channels and marketing efforts. So it is really interesting. And something you mentioned briefly was, I think you said something like, thank you AI or something like that. And I think that's an important like next point to get onto. And I guess my question in general is, where do you see AI playing a big part in Web3 marketing moving forward?
So I mean, shout out to AI again. So to answer that, I've seen a lot of value in content and community operations, because whether we want to be honest about this or not, everyone, especially in marketing, we are literally using AI. Is either to scale up our content production, or just using it to generate ideas, or to write our LinkedIn posts, our Twitter threads, or blog articles, or just to even summarize governance proposals, for example, or translating into multiple languages, or just turning technical updates into easy to understand threads for people to be able to understand and leave the whole grammatical jargon away. So that is that for content. So I see AI helping in that aspect greatly. It's already doing it, but then AI is evolving, so it's set to actually help scale that up in many ways, more than one. And then so I also see AI helping with community growth. I will explain. So think about AI that answers your FAQs. So what people have to do is just enter the question, and then in split second, the AI has already provided an answer. Especially for projects with large community, and then the community managers are having, they can basically handle everybody, right? I see AI helping in that aspect. And then I also see AI helping guide users through onboarding, because Web3 onboarding can be a bit technical if you ask me. So I see AI that already understands what the project is about. I see them helping guide new users through onboarding, or recommending next steps, especially in DAOs, right? And then so I think the opportunity I see here is all, it all boils down to scaling, because being able to serve more people, because we're all talking about getting mainstream adoption. We're looking to onboard, I mean, maybe 10 million people in the next couple of years. And this is where we need AI, because AI doesn't sleep, it doesn't rest, it has enough manpower. And so the thing here I see, the keyword here is scaling, right? And so being able to serve more people with better content and faster support. But I mean, in as much as I've been talking about how exciting AI is going to help, I think one thing we risk losing here is the human touch. I'm sorry, but I feel like we're going to risk losing the human touch, because using AI 100% of the time, we're going to end up having over automated communities, and it might feel a bit cold, because the answers, despite how conversational you might try to make it be, at the end of the day, it's still going to have this robotic AI feel. And we all know that AI that consistently spits out generic stuff, it's actually hurts more than helps. So I think the balance here, or the real win here, let's look at the brighter side, is that AI empowers us to be more creative, faster output, faster learning, and we're able to actually personalize on a more deeper level, and not when it replaces real relationships. No. So I think we can just use it to scale and help us push out more content and help us grow community, and serve as and helpmates, and not just dump everything on AI. Because at the end of the day, you're going to lose people. It doesn't matter if they are there for airdrop or they are there for incentives. Everybody needs that human connection at the end of the day, right? So I think so. I think, yeah, that basically sums it up. That's where I see AI helping in Web3 and helping scale
It's like a
the
background.
space.
It's a background engine because even if we
Yeah.
if we integrated with founder-led approaches from which we spoke about earlier on in the episode, um, you or the founder can utilize AI to make sure that while they're running this huge company, they have the time to put into releasing their own thoughts, their own social media posts, their own LinkedIn posts that you mentioned. Especially if they can train the AI to write like they would. So yeah, I think it's super effective, and I do think that the velocity in which you can conduct different marketing activities has now gone up a level. If you know how to use AI in the right way, and if you don't use it, you're going to be missing out humongously. Something that we're doing a lot with. I'll leave that point there, and I guess kind of coming to almost near the end of this session now. We've hit some really, really good points today, and I really appreciate that value that you shared. And I guess the next, or let's say like the final question that I would ask you is if you were talking to a project or a new Web3 builder right now, and you were giving them like the do's and don'ts list of like, do this, don't do this when it comes to marketing, what would maybe a couple of the do points be, and what would a couple of the don't points be?
There was a builder in front of me right now, and then the one asking me this question. The first thing I'll tell them is start with clarity. Clarity in your mission, clarity when it comes to your audience, your story, your roadmap. Because if people like can't explain, I think I mentioned this before, if people can't explain what you do and why it matters in one sentence, you're making it hard. So always start with clarity. I understand you want to hit the big numbers, you want to hit the big community members, you want to have 8 million users. Yeah, I get that. All that will come when you focus on clarity. When people can understand what you do or what you're trying to sell or what you're trying to promote, then I think you've already covered 50% of your success part already. And yeah, start with clarity, right? And then beyond clarity, you need to focus on connection. See, because at the end of the day in Web3, you can't just do it alone. There's nobody that will come out and say, oh, yeah, I work in Web3 and I did this alone. I was able to achieve this success alone, right? Web3 is about people, and it's not just about protocol. I don't care how dazzling, how amazing your protocol roadmap is. Web3 is all about people and not just protocols, right? So talk to your community, talk to them, listen more than you post. You'll be surprised that feedbacks from your community is actually going to help you scale faster, because these are real people who are out there. You as a builder, you can't see everything. You're busy trying to scale your tech, you're busy trying to make it user friendly, or trying to make people to be able to use it without stress. So you can't be everywhere all at once, right? So listen more than you communicate, or listen more than you post, right? And don't just ship your products. Build relationships with people, because when the meaningful project, they don't just drop from the sky. They don't just happen by accident. You don't just see them and start trending on X all of a sudden. They are already built it brick by brick, right? And they are the result of small, consistent, intentional efforts to solve real problems. And so I would say, as a builder, speak with purpose. That is one. And show up with integrity, because we don't have a lot of that in this space, and that is the truth. People are just here to get their next paycheck and they're out. So I would say stick with purpose, show up with integrity, even when it feels like no one is watching. Trust me, people are. And then when you've done your beats, you'll be surprised at how fast you're going to scale, or how fast you're going to grow.
Yeah, I think there's a very good point at the end there about integrity. And I do think after this cycle, a lot of people that are involved in crypto right now, they are very aware of its flaws and the industry's issues. And whether it's people that are extractors in this industry or not kind of integrity driven individuals, I'm hoping that as the landscape changes, these people will be able to get less and less of a reward out of this industry, especially as people are becoming a lot more wise to how this industry works. And I do think there's going to be kind of a big switch of the type of individual that builds in Web3 and crypto moving forward. And yeah, the best thing that you can do right now is create that credible brand. Even if it means that you're not going to grow as quickly as maybe a project that comes out just to try and grab all of that initial traction, but you sustainably are building and growing. I do think that you're going to have your time when integrity is valued more than quick kind of incentive. So that's a very interesting kind of paradox that we're going to see moving forward in this space, I think. And yeah, it's still so young, this space, even though we've been here a while, based on the amount of mistakes that we're still making and how many problems there are to be solved. So yeah, I think that there's been a ton of really good points covered in this episode. Yeah, obviously I really, really appreciate you jumping on and being the guest for once and sharing some amazing insight for the people listening that are looking to build projects in this space. And yeah, I guess this is your opportunity. I mentioned at the start, you have your own podcast. If you wanted to, I don't know, just give a little bit about yourself to finish us off, let people know where they can find you, then go ahead.
Oh, so sorry, Ron. I think it was my voice. So sorry.
It's okay. It's all good. I'm just doing an outro. So I'll just like do the outro from here, and the video editor can cut it. And then yeah, this could be the outro. I really, really appreciate you joining today and sharing a wealth of knowledge around what it takes to market a brand effectively in this industry. And yeah, I guess this is your chance. Where can people find you? Where can people continue learning from you? I know you have your own podcast as well. So yeah, please let people know.
Okay, so you can find me on X. Quite active on X, antibc with _, and on LinkedIn as well, Olabisi Adelaja. Then my podcasts, I have quite a number of episodes that covers marketing, growth tactics in the Web3 space, and then yeah, I think those are my most active channels. Telegram, X, and LinkedIn. So on Telegram, still antibc as well. So that's where people can find me, and I always try to respond to my DMs and make sure that I contribute my own bit to the space. Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, you're contributing very well. And I really appreciate you jumping on today. And yeah, definitely anyone listening, go and check out Olabisi's work moving forward and take advantage of the knowledge that she's managed to acquire in this space. So yeah, thank you to anyone that listened today. I hope you took some value from it. I definitely did. Thank you again to Olabisi for jumping on. And yeah, definitely check out her podcast as well if you want to learn more about marketing and growth in this space. And with that being said, that is the end of this episode, and we'll see you all on the next one.